All right. Well, first, good morning. Thank you to coming to the Dads Caucus press conference regarding the shutdown and the expiration of the ACA subsidies. I know all of you who are skipping the Speaker Johnson press conference know where the real power lies. But I want to just say we're here for a basic reason. It is because this shutdown caused by the Republicans' refusal to negotiate with Democrats over ACA subsidy extension is really hurting families across the country. And we know that we're starting to see letters go out of how much more people are going to actually end up paying for their ACA healthcare premiums. I had a constituent who said her new calculated amount is going to go up by 70%. Another constituent said that she was paying $82 for a plan back in 2021. Now that same plan with the expiration of the subsidies will be going up to $382. That's something that families just simply cannot afford. $382 a month from 82 is not something families can afford. And we know that because we're dads. We help our families with their budgets. We help our families buy groceries. We help our families pay the rent, the utilities, the clothes that our kids need, and we see everything going up and up and up. And what now the families are facing is this other, not only double whammy, but triple, quadruple whammy when it comes to their expenses. So this is something that the Dads Caucus has been calling out on the ACA expirations since last fall. We had a hearing, general membership meeting with the Dads Caucus saying, hey, this is a big deal. Families are going to get hit hard if we don't deal with this ACA subsidies expiration. We did that last fall. We had a press conference in May of this year. And in May of this year, we told the Republicans, hey, instead of passing your one big billionaire bill, you should work on extending the ACA tax subsidies. Then later on, we ended up having in the Ways and Means room, the Dads Caucus member Stephen Horsford offered up an amendment to extend the ACA subsidies. The Republicans then voted it down. So this is something that we've been trying to tell the Republicans over and over and over and over again, that this is going to hurt working people throughout the country, absolutely, and they still have ignored us. And that's what this is about, is fighting for families. And we know what families do. I grew up when they don't have health insurance. I grew up without health insurance. I ended up at times getting sick or injured, and parents without health insurance do one thing. They look at to see if their kid gets worse or they get better. And if they get better, great, no harm, no foul. If they get worse, well, they often end up in the emergency room, diagnosed later with a more severe illness, and end up costing not only the taxpayers but that family even more money. I ended up getting pneumonia when I was 7, ended up in the hospital, and that back in the day, you had to put up collateral if you didn't have insurance, so my parents had to put up their house. So that's the kind of stress that families are facing. And we know that the coverage will be cut because they're not going to be able to afford it. So we have a lot of things to do, but this is one of our main priorities. We want to make sure that these families are taken care of. We have a series of Dads Caucus members from across the country. The next Dads Caucus member who's going to be speaking is Derek Tran from Orange County.
Thank you, Chair Gomez, for bringing us together. I want to wish everyone a good morning. And let me start off by recognizing my fellow dads for being here today and standing strong for working families. Let me be clear. The government is shut down because House Republicans are taking a paid vacation while healthcare costs are skyrocketing and working families are getting left behind. When I talk to people back home, they are so scared. They're scared for their healthcare becoming unaffordable or losing it altogether. For my fellow parents, that's a nightmare. If you get sick, you can't work, you can't take care of your kids, you can't support your family. Before I was a dad, I was in the Army. When I enlisted, I didn't have much. Every dollar in my paycheck changed my life. That's why I sent a letter to Speaker Johnson asking him to bring the House back to make sure that our troops don't miss a paycheck. And it's money that they've earned. I'm starting to hear that some of my Republican colleagues might agree with me. Many of our troops are parents. Even though they are literally risking their lives, for us, a quarter of our military families go without food and not enough to eat. That, to me and to my colleagues, is unacceptable. Our military should not have to pay the price for the dysfunction coming out of Washington. I am proud to stand with my fellow dads to stand up for our troops, to stand up for healthcare, and to stand up for the American people. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Representative Subramanyam.
Thank you. I'm Congressman Suhas Subramanyam. I represent Northern Virginia, Virginia's 10th district. We did not have to have this shutdown. Let's be clear. All we've been asking for is to make sure we protect the health care of the American people and that we change the way we're doing things in our federal government. Yet here we are now. We're past a week in this shutdown, and not only has the Republican House leadership shut down government, but they've even shut down Congress and not come to the table to negotiate a solution to this. And what we're asking, and we're saying to extend these tax credits and health care to the American people, is we're asking for something that is wildly popular with the American people. We're talking about preventing a doubling and tripling of people's health care premiums. And for the government contractors who are going out without pay right now, they bring this issue up to me as well. And they're telling me in very simple terms that some of them qualify for these tax credits and subsidies, and that without them, they cannot afford health care themselves. I talked to one government contractor, his business, when things are not going well, he qualifies for the subsidies, and he said that his business and his employees will be hurt tremendously if we let these programs expire and we take away affordable care to millions of Americans. And so this issue not only affects Americans across the country, but even the contractors who are hurting most by a shutdown are actually telling me that we need to make sure we hold the line and that we get Republicans to the table to negotiate a solution to this impending healthcare crisis. And so I will continue to fight for contractors in my district. I will also continue to fight for federal workers in my district who see what's going on in this government and know that this Republican administration has already been shutting down the government in many ways. And so they want to see change as well. And so I'm proud to stand with the Dads Caucus to continue to fight for change and stand up for my constituents.
Good morning, everyone. Johnny Olszewski from Maryland's 2nd Congressional District. And I first want to thank Representative Gomez for his leadership of the Dads Caucus and for bringing us together today and every day as we fight for our kids and the kids of this nation. I also want to applaud Representative Tran for leading the letter to ensure that we pay our military men and women who are serving this country bravely. It is the right thing to do. If we were in session, it is one of many things that we can do. So I join my colleagues in calling upon Speaker Johnson to bring this House of Representatives back, put us to work, and let's find some solutions now, both for reopening the government in a responsible and bipartisan way, but also to meet the needs of the healthcare crisis that is looming. And make no mistake, there is a healthcare crisis looming. Think about a family of 4 making $78,000 a year. Their increase is almost $2,600 per year. That is crushing for a working family. That is devastating, and it will lead them to choose not to get health care in many cases. I think about my soon-to-be 10-year-old daughter. She's had the unfortunate occasion to have broken her wrist twice and her collarbone once growing up. And as I think about those experiences, the idea of not having health coverage, and in those moments having to choose, do I call an ambulance? Do I take her to the hospital? Can she get the care that she needs and deserves? What's the impact of the healthcare system when parents have to start asking those questions? And so I'm very pleased to join my fellow dads and Democrats in pushing for common sense solutions to this healthcare crisis, to reopen the government in a responsible and a bipartisan way. Let's add one more D to that: decent people. Let's have decent people join us in that push so we actually get that done. And with that, we welcome our newest member from Virginia, Representative Walkinshaw.
Thank you. I'm James Walkinshaw from Virginia's 11th District, the newest member of the Dads Caucus. I want to thank Congressman Gomez and all of the dads who are members of the caucus for being in this fight for affordable health care for a long time. As was said, we didn't have to be where we are today. This is an issue that could have been addressed by the Republican Congress months ago. This deadline is not a surprise. As we speak in Virginia and across the country, families are getting the notices and dads are opening the envelopes with the notices of these dramatic increases in healthcare costs that will come if this Congress doesn't act. And I just want to say, I've had a lot of conversations with families and dads across my district over the last couple of weeks before the shutdown and since the shutdown. And what is clear to me is that every night, last night, in the 11th district that I represent, dads were laying awake trying to figure out how their families will be able to afford to address the cost of living crisis that Donald Trump and Washington Republicans have created. And the healthcare costs aren't coming in a vacuum. They're coming on top of the average increase in cost of living, $1,200 per year per family due to Trump's tariffs. $400 per year in higher utility bills because of the disinvestment from cheap, clean, renewable energy that the big ugly bill represents. Average of $1,200 in healthcare costs, so $1,200 plus $1,200 plus $400. That is a lot of money that families, as we speak, are trying to figure out how they will be able to afford. Congress needs to address this issue. Speaker Johnson needs to bring House Republicans back here to negotiate a bipartisan agreement to reopen the government and address the healthcare crisis, and that's what the Dads Caucus is going to keep fighting for. Thank you all.
No, thank you to the Dads Caucus members, and just to emphasize that the Dads Caucus has drafted a letter and sent it to Speaker Johnson and the Republicans to come back, negotiate with the Democratic leadership so that we can reopen the government and extend these ACA tax credits. What Johnny talked about regarding our broken bones and his daughter, when I was growing up, this is a true story, I broke my ankle, didn't have health insurance, and my dad made me ice it for 3 to 4 days, not hours, 3 to 4 days, because they wanted to make sure it was completely broken, and it really was broken, not sprained, before we went to the emergency room or to the doctor. So that's what families are going to be dealing with. And then just to add a little bit extra point, why the Republicans should come back, the expiration of the ACA's subsidies disproportionately impacts Republican states that failed to expand Medicaid. So that's why you have even Marjorie Taylor Greene, who now is the voice of reason for the Republican Party, God help us, calling on them to deal with this issue because she knows that it's going to hurt Georgia, it's going to hurt a bunch of Republican states, and it hurts their constituents as much as it does or more than our own state. So we want to make sure that people understand that and that the Dads Caucus is calling Mike Johnson and the Republicans to get to work. That's bare minimum. And this we wouldn't be in a shutdown if it wasn't for them. Anybody tries to say otherwise is just lying, since historically most shutdowns occur in a divided government, not a unified government, and Republicans control the Senate, the House, and the White House. So it's on them. With that, anybody have questions?
Leader Jeffrey said that a one-year ACA extension is a non-starter. How do you feel about this? Is there something that you'd like to see in the well, there's no negotiations right now, but when they begin, which would you like to see?
He's the one at the table, and we're going to let him play the cards that he thinks are more likely to resolve the situation. But we want to see that something that is permanent. If not, we're going to be dealing with this over and over again. And one of the rumors I'm hearing from K Street is that the Republicans they don't want to extend these ACA subsidies because it costs a lot of money, but also for the fact that they want to do another budget reconciliation bill that would take up billions of more dollars. And the fact that they already went into debt and the deficit with their one big billionaire bill, where they could get that money. So I think this is a way for them to create space within the spending budget in order to put it towards more tax breaks for the billionaires. So we want to make sure that Hakeem has the strongest hand, and I think that allowing him to negotiate and stay unified as a caucus will give him the leverage to do that. You have anybody a question? Go ahead.
So, you know, I think that there's a question maybe that's open about whether or not Leader Jeffries actually is at the table. You know, he only met the president for his first sit-down interview with him just the other week. And so
Yeah.
I'm curious what a couple of you might make of kind of the cyberbullying that's been occurring from the president towards Leader Jeffries, and whether or not you feel as though the president needs to be taking the concerns of him in particular more seriously and having more conversations with him.
Well, that's exactly my point. Why are they having a government shutdown during a unified government? That doesn't happen. You know, the only time that's ever happened before is when Donald Trump was president the last time. So the great deal maker, you know, the master of the deal, is not even negotiating with anybody on our side of the aisle. And that's just not how our system of government is supposed to work. He wants to make it a different system where he has complete say or plenary authority where he can just dictate everything. But that's not the way our system works at this moment. But I know that Hakeem and the Democrats are united, at least in the House. The Senate, you know, I don't speak for the Senate. But we're going to keep pushing to get this done. And then on these attacks regarding the sombreros, I think that those are just completely racist and uncalled for. But every time he does it, I'm going to release another movie poster with him and Jeffrey Epstein. Because they fight fire with fire, we're going to fight fire with fire as well. If they go low, we're going to kick them in the face, right? We don't play by the old rules of the, you know, they go low, we go high. That kind of era is way over. So it's bare knuckles in this fight, and we're not going to cry about it. We're just going to keep hammering away and showing how Republicans are hurting our constituents, but also Americans across the country. Anybody want to add something?
Yeah, J.D. Vance said that he would meet with any member of Congress and try to work this out. So I'm still waiting to hear back from him because I actually posted. I think any one of us, we're all here. Have some folks from California here who are still here waiting for a negotiation, an actual conversation about what we can do to move this forward. So instead, what we're doing is press conferences to publicly state what we want. And what we want is very simple and very popular with the American people. In fact, I've heard constituents tell me that we're being too easy on them by basically giving them the gift of an easy political out in return for ending this shutdown. And so it's preposterous to me that they are still not only closing government, but closing Congress during this shutdown fight when all they could do is something very popular, which is, you know, stop this impending healthcare crisis and treat federal workers better.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to ask your reaction to a statement, anyone's reaction. Yesterday, Senator Schumer told an outlet that in regards to the shutdown, quote, "every day gets better for us." Speaker Johnson this morning critiqued that statement as callous, and I want to know what your reaction is to his statement.
If it is getting better for us in the terms of being able to actually extend the ACA subsidies, then that is a good thing. Extending those subsidies will help millions of Americans. Remember, 4 million Americans will choose, if those prices spike, and it's not really much of a choice, to not have health insurance. 20 million will see drastic increases, double digits in some cases. Not 70%, but 100 to 150%. So if it's in a sense of like it gets better for us to have more leverage, then I think that's what it's about. It's not about politics, because in the end, if we do not see these extended, the ACA subsidies, families are going to hurt. And they're already hurting. Let's face it. They're already hurting. And then Donald Trump and the Republicans act like they care about federal employees. Well, they have fired 250 to 275,000. They either were fired or took the fork in the road offer that forced them to retire early. And those individuals and a lot of these folks, districts, are seeing their last paychecks coming in December. So these folks don't see Donald Trump and the Republicans as fighting for them.
Countless Americans are seeing no paychecks at all through the shutdown. And so, I mean, you say, like, if it's in regard to the ACA subsidies, what about the Americans who just hear this, and maybe they don't understand context, they just hear this is better for the Democrats when I can't put food on the table during a shutdown?
What I hear from the federal employees, they're like, do not give in. Do not give in. Why? Because they know that they're the target of Donald Trump. Doge. Did we forget about Doge? Did we forget about Elon Musk attacking them, saying he was going to take a chainsaw to the federal workforce? So no, they don't see them as friends and allies. They see them as people who have attacked their livelihood, called them waste, fraud, and abuse. So they want us to dig in. I'm not sure if you have the folks who represent.
Jimmy's absolutely right in terms of how most federal workers are viewing this. They've suffered 9 months of assault and siege from the Trump administration, firing them, attacking them, denigrating their service. But with respect to your question, look, Democrats want to end this shutdown. That's why we're actually here. House Republicans aren't even here working with us to end this shutdown. Shutdown's not good for anybody, but neither is the healthcare crisis. And that's why we are here ready to negotiate. And I'll speak for myself. I recognize that a negotiation involves compromise. I think with respect to a short-term extension or one-year extension of the ACA tax credits, my response to some Republicans, a small handful of Republicans who have put that forward is, in almost every case, these same Republicans voted to make tax cuts for billionaires permanent in the big ugly bill. So why is it that billionaires get permanent tax cuts, but middle-class Americans, working-class Americans from this Republican perspective might, maybe, possibly, if we fight for it, get only a temporary extension of tax credits they need to afford health care?
Thank you. I'm sorry I was late.
No.
With Speaker Johnson, and he indicated to me he doesn't seem to have a willingness to bring the House back next week, at least at this time. So a response on that, but also one of the questions asked to him was about the civil discourse right now.
Mhm.
And I have to follow up. You just said, if they go low, we will kick them in the face.
No.
Help us understand how that is
Why?
helping the country during a time of, frankly, where we are seeing violence, and we're seeing people who, you may
No.
not mean that literally, but people are taking quotes like that literally.
Well, here's the thing. We're having, like, Donald Trump only responds to one thing, strength. The Republicans only respond to one thing, strength. Remember, we're living in Donald Trump's America right now, where they're sending in ICE agents, CBP, into our communities, terrorizing families, to the extent where they're not even going to get health care treatment. I know somebody who's supposed to start dialysis, and they were afraid to start dialysis for weeks, because Trump sent in the National Guard, ICE, CBP. We're in a different era. And if we Democrats act like we're not dealing with a opposition that will do anything to get their way, then we're gonna be in the perpetual minority. We're not gonna be able to defend our constituents, and we're gonna end up losing a lot more. So my district, they want me to fight back. They don't care if I drop an F-bomb. They don't care if if I have to go and lay my body on the line to get arrested or to push back. We're in a different era. And if we keep on acting, Democrats keep acting like, oh, these are normal times, then you're going to lose. And I don't plan on losing. I don't plan on losing for the American people or my constituents. And I don't plan on letting Donald Trump become the authoritarian leader that he wants to be, the plenary authority that Stephen Miller talked about. My plan is to fight back every single day. And so that's just where we're at. And for us to pretend that that's not where we're at is political malpractice. We have to fight back.
But you have responsibility if there is more political violence. There's a difference between strength and violent rhetoric.
Let me say this. the President of the United States is the leader of the free world. Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House. John Thune is the leader of the Senate. Our leaders set the tone for political discourse. And when Russ Vought calls federal employees the enemy, when Donald Trump says he hates his enemy, when Russ Vought says he wants federal employees to suffer, Speaker Johnson is awfully quiet when those things happen. And now there's outrage over the Senate Minority Leader discussing the shutdown. It's really crazy to me that the American public, actually, I think the American public see it, actually. It's amazing that we give passes to our leaders for the violence and the rhetoric that they use. The leader of the free world, Speaker of the House, they're the ones that they are our leaders. They have a responsibility to condone it, which they don't. In fact, the president is openly perpetuating violent language and violent actions in our American cities today. And so it's incumbent on us to call it out and do something about it. I think the only way we get past it, to your question, is that we talk. And we can't talk when we have a Speaker of the House who continues to refuse to convene us on the most basic of issues. And so I welcome the conversation. I would love to sit across from Vice President Vance, Speaker of the House, even any of my rank and file Republican colleagues. Let's sit down and have a conversation civilly about how we move forward. But we can't do that when the president is not engaging, the Senate leader is not engaging, and the Speaker of the House won't even have Republicans be here in Capitol Hill.
Go ahead. No, go
All
ahead.
right, just very quickly, if I will be here every single day until the shutdown is over, every day I can, and I'm waiting for Republicans to come to the table, and they have not. And so I would like to see us solve this problem, move us forward. They had 6 months, though. Why are we in a shutdown again? We need to stop doing this as a Congress. This needs to end. We can't go CR to CR anymore. It's hard for businesses in my district to plan 6 months at a time, whether you're a contractor or not. It's hard for our country to do the things we need to do long term to be strong and safe. And the fact that we're in this position again, it seems to always happen when Republicans are in charge, is just a shame and completely avoidable.
Go ahead.
Yes, considering that Congress has to spend billions in subsidies in order to basically keep Obamacare affordable, do you guys think that now 10, 15 years down the line, do you guys think it was still worth it to pass that bill?
Yes. I mean, what are we talking about? I don't know if anyone was around before the Affordable Care Act, but people could not afford insurance, and they were in a dire straits, right? And now people can afford health care. And the reason they can afford health care is because of programs like this that are wildly popular with the American people. We still have a problem with the cost of health care in our country, but that bill was meant to try to cover more people. We're talking about tens of millions of people. And so, yes, I think that bill was worth it. Now, what we need to do is get the cost of health care down. That can be bipartisan work that we can do together. But first, we need to stop a crisis. And long term, we need to stop getting in a position where we're at a crisis moment from month to month, year to year in Congress, and start looking forward and figuring out how we can prevent crises from happening in the first place. But absolutely.
Yes, sir. Also, if the Republicans get what they want out of this, right, which I know that's not what y'all want, but if they were to, right, what would it look like for maybe like young married couples who are thinking about starting having children in the next few years? Do you guys know what costs would look like for them, how that might increase?
When it comes to when it comes to them, the ACA or the no subsidies?
To what's going on?
Oh, no, so here's the thing, the Affordable Care Act had a transformative effect, especially when it comes to delivering health care. And it was shifting our system from you get sick, you get injured, you go to the doctor, to a more of a preventative kind of model. That was a huge shift. And in California, we ended up going to almost like 98% of the population having some kind of healthcare coverage. That means that you would get more preventative care, get diagnosed sooner, and you started seeing the increases in prices and premiums in healthcare. Actually, the curve was starting to bend, but it absolutely not still affordable. We had to do a lot more changes. But think about it: 98% of California's population covered. 2% that weren't covered, basically people who were undocumented. That's who were the only people that were left out. Why? Because undocumented people don't get healthcare coverage through Medicaid or through other programs. So so that's one of it. And then when it comes to families, trying to start a family is extremely difficult. One, if you want to buy a house, well, housing is completely unaffordable in this country right now. So they can't even buy a house. Getting married and having kids, that's even a higher cost. Right now, you have strollers and car seats that are going up because of the tariffs. Baby shoes for toddlers, clothes, that's 99% of it is all made outside of the country. So it's all going up and up and up. Then you add into a fact of the healthcare coverage, you're gonna and the increase in premiums, you're just gonna see that go up even more. I'll share what we have to buy our insurance through the exchange. My coverage through my family is $400, and that's with my employer, the federal government, making up a portion of that. So I pay $400 a month. We're going to see an increase. So that's the family plan. I have no doubt that these plans is going to get more expensive, especially if we don't do anything about those subsidies. You guys want to add something?
I think the direct answer to your question in terms of a younger married couple is that the increase per person would be a little bit less than that if they're younger. So they're looking at an additional $2,000-ish a year, depending on their income and where they live. And one point I'll make, just going back to Congressman Subramanyam's point, and I was the chief of staff for Congressman Jerry Connolly when we passed the Affordable Care Act, and one of the issues that was very serious at the time that we forget about now, think about that young married couple. Maybe one of them wants to start a small business and become an entrepreneur. Well, before the Affordable Care Act, if they had health insurance through their employer, it was very difficult for them to give that up and try to navigate the jungle of a private market that existed at the time. And a lot of people stayed in jobs maybe they didn't want to stay in rather than starting a business that now, because of the Affordable Care Act and the exchanges, they have that flexibility to do it. And depending on their income range, these tax credits, the subsidies as you describe them, are absolutely necessary to give them that flexibility. And I hear my Republican colleagues a lot talking about, entrepreneurship and wanting to support businesses, and we need more people starting and growing small businesses in this country. Well, if these tax credits are to expire, a lot of people who might want to start a small business won't be able to, and a lot of people who have a small business now might have to shut it down and go back to work for an employer.
And so before we end, I just want to kind of stress, mentioning kind of the violence. I was here on January 6th when 50,000 Trump supporters were storming the Capitol. I got stuck in the gallery, where I was there when Alicia Babbitt was trying to break in and she got shot and killed. I was there, so that's political violence. That's real violence. I know members of Congress who bought bulletproof vests, bought guns, because when Trump was in office, we didn't know if he was actually going to leave or not, and if that violence would continue. That's political violence. So we know what's at stake. And before I end, I want reporters to ask, why aren't the Republicans here trying to extend ACA subsidies that if they expire, disproportionately impact their own constituents? Why don't they care about that? Nobody asked them, why don't you care? Ask a Republican, why don't you care that your own constituents are going to lose health care? Your own constituents are going to be seeing prices increase. You don't seem to care. You only seem to care about what Donald Trump wants you to do, or the fact that you don't want to swear in Adelita Garcia so she can't add to the discharge petition and we can have a vote on subpoenaing the Epstein files. Why don't they care about that kind of stuff? So that's one of the things. And we're not just fighting for our own constituents. We're fighting for Republicans' constituents too. We're probably fighting more for their own people than they are, because what happens to them still matters to us. What happens to families, no matter where they live in the country, still matters to us. With that, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
How's
Thank you
the-
for your time, so
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much